Stan Gibilisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1 GV. Whiskey 1 Good Vibrations at your service. To describe the simplest, quickest possible antenna that you can use if you want to get on the air in a real rush. You just bought a transceiver, say, a radio. It has a connector in the back for a coaxial cable connector, an SO239 female connector, which you plug in with a PL259 male connector to get a 52 ohm coaxial cable. And you can run that to just about anything, a transmatch, a dipole antenna, anything you wanna concoct, you can run it to that. Now, how'd this little stray dot get up there? I don't like that. I don't like that little dot. Okay. I'm talking about the simplest possible antenna, you know, and that's what Uber-Quickie means. Ultra quick. You set your radio up wherever you can near a window. It doesn't matter where. You just want to get on the air and see if you can make some contacts. You buy a piece of zip cord, you know, extension cord like you use for electrical purposes. You can get it at your hardware store in any length. And you cut that cord to a length of 234 divided by the frequency in megahertz that you plan to use. So in feet, 234 divided by 7 would give you the length in feet that you would need for 40 meters, about 33 feet. You just calculate the length of that zip cord, and then you unzip it. You just rip it apart. So you get one section for the antenna and one for a pseudo ground radio. Or what you'll end up with actually is a half-wave dipole, just sort of twisted into any old configuration as long as these two aren't running exactly parallel to one another. If you're on say a third or fourth floor, you're in good shape because you can just dangle this green wire, the ground radial wire, down, straight down. Put a big heavy old lead fishing weight on it. Let it bang against the wall of the building. Or you can just run it to the ground and lay it along the ground, preferably at a right angle or greater to the antenna element, which you string horizontally. Then you just tie a little knot in the end of your zip cord, get some twine, run it the rest of the way to a tree or another building or a pole or even a point on the ground if you're high enough up. You just want to get on the air. Here's your radio. If you can ground it to the electrical ground in your house, that'll help to some extent. If you're at ground level, you can run a little wire out the window and put it to a ground rod, just so that you get some semblance of a ground, if you can, on the radio. But you don't even need that, really, technically, if you only are planning on running. I would recommend less than 20 watts of power with this kind of installation, because you're going to have RF all over the place. You're going to have it in the shack. You're going to have it in your cat. You're going to have it in your toilet. You're going to have it in your food. You're going to have it everywhere, all right? You're going to be an RF saturated amateur radio operator. But some of that RF is bound to get out over the air. And when you finally hit that key, you don't use anything but CW, do you? And you have this zip cord cut to the proper length. You don't even have to have a standing wave ratio meter. You attach the grounded portion. You just strip off a couple inches of the end of that wire and wrap it around the screw threads in your SO239 and double this or triple this back on itself, strip off an inch or two and stuff it into the center conductor thingy, and you've got yourself an antenna. It's not a good antenna, but it will get you on the air and it will make contacts if your ambient noise level, radio frequency noise level, isn't out of sight. You'll probably interfere with devices such as you don't know, any kind of electronic device these days. Even one of those lamps with variable brightness dimmer. It can even interfere with the dimmer in a lamp and make the bulb get brighter and dimmer. It can do all kinds of things if you run high power, but if you keep that power less than or equal to 20 watts output, you're probably good to go. If that won't do it for you, crank it down to 10 watts. Your transmitter should have an indicator that tells you about how much power you're putting out. Otherwise, just go on the fly. Just run a few watts, just a little bit, just enough to get out on the air and get some RF flying out into space. And send your da-di-da-di-da-da-di-da and see what happens. Later you can worry about the more elaborate antennas, but right now, you just bought a new radio like I did a few years ago, and you just want to get on the air with the bloody thing and you haven't installed an antenna yet, you can try something like this. Don't let anybody trip on the wire, and all the terrible bad things that can happen. You know what precautions to take. I don't have to tell you all of that. All I have to tell you is, if you want to get on the air quick, this is about the quickest way I know of to put a little RF out into space and get on the air, especially if you haven't been for years, like I hadn't been when I first got that radio. I believe it was in just about the year 2001 or the year 2000. It was right around the time of the Twin Towers attack. The World Trade Center attack. I remember that. I think everybody remembers where they were and what they were doing when that attack occurred, just as they remember, if they're old enough, where they were and what they were doing when President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. I wasn't operating the ham radio in either occasion, but I was in 4th grade when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. It was during lunch hour, I think, and our teacher, Miss Hesselberg, told us, "You are witnessing history in the making." Were we ever? And if you use an Uber-Quickie antenna, the last thing in the world that you will do is make history. But you might, with a little bit of luck, make contacts. Stan Gibilisco, W1GV, signing off for now, saying 73, which means best regards and so long, which, in CW of course, on this or any other antenna, translates to da-da-da-da-da-da.